Yeah, for those who don't know me, my name's Graham, or djgra79 on the ACL forums. I'm going to talk a bit about audio editing, a little bit of basic fundamentals around music and how to sort of understand it, to give you a bit more of an idea as to what you might be doing and sort of how to go about it. So there's a lot of different programs that can be used to do audio editing. There's some examples up here, probably more popular ones. Audacity is probably the most popular or choice in this forum. Adobe Audition is the one that I use probably quite heavily at home myself. Mixmaster, Nero Wave Editor, Sony Vegas, GarageBand is more of a Apple Mac kind of software for those who are so inclined, but many more as well. The beauty of Audacity though is it's a free piece of software, so if you want to do it, you can just download it and get editing straight away. There's no cost to you, only the cost of the original music, which you've clearly bought, you know, legally. Sorry. So just to give you a bit of a snapshot of what you'll be looking at if you're going to do some audio editing. That's the page you're looking at. So the top left screen is your transport button, so your play, pause, stop, end of the track, start of the track, and recording as well. So you can plug in a microphone, or if you've got guitar and you want to do some of your own stuff, you can of course record into this and make your own creations from scratch if need be. At the top is your VU meter, so that gives you a visual representation of how loud it is. Green is good, red is bad, essentially. Too much red, it'll do something what's called clipping, and it basically distorts the signal, and by the time you sort of process that, send it out through your PA system or your FM transmitter, if you're doing that with your display, chances are you'll hear through all the car stereos. So try and keep it out of the red as much as possible if you can. In the middle of the window is the actual WAV file of the file. So that is a visual representation of what is happening through that audio and the music. The taller the peaks are, the louder it is. And of course, the opposite remains. The smaller it is, the quieter it is. So again, if you're pushing anything too high here, that means that correlates to it being in the red, and it's going to be too loud, and it'll probably clip and distort. So try and avoid that if you can. Down the bottom, you've got some information around the timing, whereabouts you are in the view. Of course, you can zoom in, zoom controls, and all other bits and pieces as well. That's the basic sort of overview. Now, in addition to just audio editing, those programs on Audacity in particular pretty much will record in some audio, you can edit it, you can save it and export it out. That's all it'll do. You can apply some effects to it, echoes and reverbs and other bits and pieces, but that's about it. Other programs that you may have heard of that are listed up here, what they're called DAWs, Digital Audio Workstations. These are software programs that are designed to actually create and produce music from scratch. So you've got all different instruments within them. You can obviously put them in a mixer and apply effects and everything as well. But these are for actual creation of music from the ground up. Ableton Live is one that I have at home. It is expensive. It's not free, unfortunately, but it's a very powerful piece of software. So to give you an example, you can probably already tell the screen looks a lot busier because there's a lot more going on with it, and it's probably above a lot of people in this room to what we want to get out of audio editing. Needless to say, if anyone requests for me to do a mix-up or whatever for them, 9 times out of 10 I'll probably come in here and do it real quickly because I know my way around where it is, and I can do certain effects in here that I haven't been able to do successfully in the likes of Audition, etc. So just very quickly at the top, you still got your transport buttons, so they look normal. They're just obviously a lot smaller to save real estate. On the left-hand side is your files, where you can select all your music samples, all your different audio effects, MIDI effects, instruments, so on and so forth. In the middle is the arrangement window. This is where you stack and create your musical creations. So I don't know if you can quite make it out here, but at the top there's a drum section, so these are all different drum programmings. Then you've got some high claps and shakers, there's bass guitar, chords from a keyboard, piano, swell, so that's probably like a synthesizer type thing. You can just keep adding layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to build up your actual track and composition. Over to the right hand side is kind of the mixer of all of that. So you've got all these layers, but if you just had them all at 100%, it would sound absolutely horrible. So over here is where you sort of can adjust your levels, and things like this where you can see these red lines, you can actually automate how it actually does that. So I'm not sure what exactly that parameter is, but that could be that noise happening the whole time, and then it just sweeps up and comes down again as a volume curve, for example. And all of this stuff can be automated. Then down at the bottom is your effects and the parameters for them. So kind of think of it as your effect settings, if you like, the equivalent in Xlights. So you've done your effect, or you've done your piece that you want to put in, but this is how you tweak it. And that chain can be really long, full of stuff. But yeah, that's where I kind of live when I'm doing a lot of my edits. So why do we want to edit music? The song might be fine as it is, and that's fine, so don't edit it. But the song might be too long. You might really like it, but for your audience, it might drag on a bit too much. So you can chop it up, take off the front, take off the end, take out a section in the middle, make it shorter, basically. Or the reverse. You might really like a song, but it only goes for 1.5 minutes because it's a fun jingle. Baby Shark, maybe. I don't know. You'd be crazy if you did. But you know, YouTube, they do like 4-hour, 10-hour videos of things, and the only reason they have to edit the original song and just loop it over and over again. They would have had to edit it to do that. I don't know why they do that, but anyway. Create your own unique version of the song. So you might like the length of it, but there might be a slow, boring bit that you don't want, and you want to keep the momentum going for it. So you chop that out and repeat a chorus or something like that. So you keep the original length of the song, but you've taken out a section and you've put in something else. You might do this to suit your show. So there are some people that might do one long sequence of 15-20 minutes. That could be a mashup of a whole bunch of songs. To do that, you would have to do that as one audio file and one sequence within, and I'm going to keep using Xlights because I assume everyone here is predominantly going to use that. That would be one sequence. So rather than having individual songs and sequences, you just chuck it in at 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever long your show wants to be. But that audio file needs to be that one piece so that you can sequence it as one piece. Obviously, the downside of that is longer render times for it to do, 15, 20 minutes within Xlights. But if that's how you want your show to run, just on a continual loop of that one sequence for 20 minutes every night, so be it. That's a way to do it. Mashups is another way that you can make something a bit unique, where you're layering 2 or maybe more songs from each other. So rather than having one song and then fade into another one, a mashup traditionally is kind of having, for example, the instruments or the instrumental version of one song, but overlaying the vocals or another element of another song on top of it. Now, just doing that as is, without changing things like the pitch and the tempo and things like that, is probably going to sound pretty average to begin with. But if you've got some musical know-how, if you can sort of listen by ear and know about keys and things like that, the tools are there within sort of Audacity and particularly Ableton anyway, to be able to manipulate those things to get them to match, to sound pleasing. It's not something that I do a lot personally, although if I do, it'll more be just to match the tempos of songs so that they kind of slide in together rather than doing key changes. But it's possible. So song structure. So it's probably important to know how a song is made up. So you've got a song and you want to do an edit to it, but you're not quite sure where you want to do it. So it's good to sort of identify what sections there are within a song. So there's sectional, repeating forms. In popular songs, you're looking at kind of like chorus-verse kind of situations. Excuse me. The most common is probably some sort of introduction, a verse, sometimes a pre-chorus. A chorus might go back to a second verse, back to another chorus, a middle eight or a solo or something like that. Particularly in kind of rock songs and pop songs, there'll probably be some sort of epic guitar solo in there towards the end of the song. But you might not want that epic guitar solo in your song. So if you can identify where within that track it is, put a mark there, delete, gone. And you can edit the song as you need be. So just some examples. As I said, intro, pre-chorus, verse, etc. But at the end of the day, there's no rules to what the structure should be. It's an art piece, a bit like what we do here, right? When we're putting on our displays, they're a piece of art. There's no rules as such as to how it has to be. You know, you're guided by what you believe is pleasing to you and what you want to convey to your audience. But it's still important to know if in the audio editing piece that you identify sort of what those sections are within the song. So time signature is probably something to be aware of as well. So a time signature, you might have heard the phrase 4/4 or 4 to the floor. That indicates a number of beats per bar. And the reason I bring this up is it sort of ties in again to X-Lights and how you can do that with the built-in timings. So most common is 4/4. What that means is there's 4 beats to every bar. So to give an example of that, here is a classic, High Five, Jingle Bells. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the beats, and then there's a bar. 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 2, 3, 4. 4 bars, 2, 3, 4. Fade out. Yes. So that's the most common song that you, timing that you're going to hear. It'll be different tempos. It'll be faster. It'll be slower. But at the end of the day, it'll still have that feel of 4/4/4, and hopefully will be in time a lot of the time. And I will point out that the Vamp plugins in X-Lights are very good at picking up if tempos do sway. So traditionally with recorded bands and actual people playing, if they're not recording to that sort of click track that you would have heard at the start, which keeps everyone in time, the drummer might speed up and then slow down, or the guitarist might speed up and slow down. But the plugins in X-Lights, when you're doing the beats and the bars, is very good at picking that up. And I only know this from personal experience, because when I have done mixes for people, when they want this song mixed with this song, and they're 2 completely different tempos, I mix them together. When I put it in X-Lights, I can see that the beats, they all separate and contract, and they keep up with the timings perfectly. Probably the other time signature to look out for is 3/4. So that's a kind of waltz swing sort of feel. So again, that's 3 beats to every bar. I apologise in advance. The only example that I could find that's Christmas related that won't get copyright blocked on YouTube is the Chipmunks. So bear with me for 20 seconds while we hear it. But just to give you a flavour and example of what this sounds like. And it's a much faster tempo, but it's still 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You're getting it. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You get it. So to visualize that, this is a screenshot I took of, I think it was the 4/4 Jingle Bells, the High Five song. So that is what the waveform looks like when you have it in Audacity, or in this case Ableton Live. And then that ticking noise, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's those clicks there. Now when you line it up in X-Lights, in this example, this is the beats. So that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And X-Lights found them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the waveform in X-Lights. It's a mono file. It's not split out in the stereo left and right, but added together, you can tell that it's the same piece of music. So you can see there quite clearly, finds the peaks and goes, yep, that's where all the beats are. And then conversely, down here, same thing again, but this is the bars. 4 beats in that bar. 4 beats in that bar. And then if you were to write that in actual music, that's what it looks like. There's 4 beats per bar. Jingle bells, dot, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jingle all the way, etc., etc. 4/4. Any questions?